So if you've clicked on this lesson, that means that you want to learn more about phrasal verbs and you want to avoid some of those common errors that you non-native speakers make with phrasal verbs. The only way to do that, the secret rules of using phrasal verbs. Welcome back to Love English with Leila and Sabrah. So today we are indeed looking at the grammar of phrasal verbs. There are 4 words I'm going to teach you today to help you understand phrasal verbs. They are transitive, that's quite fun, intransitive, separable, and inseparable. That's fun. Now, first of all, what is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb is a verb and a particle, a preposition, sometimes an adverbial preposition, or even an adverb, that has a different meaning to the original meaning of the verb. Now, an example. Lipstick. Not a phrasal verb, but the activity is to put on. There's a nice phrasal verb for you, to put on makeup. Put is obviously a very common verb, but the phrasal verb to put on means to apply. Now remember that a phrasal verb is still a verb, and that verb will need to change depending on the tense. So if we take the phrasal verb to get on, okay, to get on with, 2 particles there, to get on with somebody means that you have a good relationship with them. It's a really common phrasal verb. Now, if I want to talk in the present, I would say we get on well. That's the present simple, and it just means that we get on well all the time. It's a general truth. If I want to talk about an old school friend that I haven't seen for a long time, I could say we got on well at school. If I want to talk about maybe a new person that I've met, and maybe it's more of a temporary period of time, I might say that I'm getting on well with him, the present continuous. If I want to make a prediction, I could use a future form with the same verb. I think we're going to get on well. So we could put phrasal verbs into 2 groups. The first, intransitive phrasal verbs. Now, don't worry too much about the technical language, unless of course you're a teacher. This might help you. An intransitive phrasal verb is a phrasal verb that doesn't take an object. So normally in sentences, we would have our subject, often I, you, they, the verb, and an object. For example, I woke up. You could have I woke up this morning, but often we just say I woke up or I woke up late. Get up or take off when a plane leaves. The plane took off, not the plane took off, I don't know, because there's no object. So intransitive, no object. That is simple enough. Where the grammar starts to get a little bit, just a little bit more complicated is when you have transitive, so phrasal verbs that take an object. For example, I picked him up. There we have him. Pick up is to move or to collect something or someone. Now, in this case, we have a transitive verb. It needs an object. You can't say I picked up. Doesn't mean anything, has no meaning without an object. Now, a phrasal verb taking an object is simple enough, but we are then going to categorize those transitive verbs into 2 more subcategories. They are separable and inseparable. Pick up, I just gave you the perfect example of actually a phrasal verb that a lot of students make the mistake with. Now, if a phrasal verb is separable, it simply means that we can place the object between the verb and the particle. So in the example that I gave you earlier, I picked him up. I have used that phrasal verb and separated it. It could also remain together, so I could say I picked up Michael, but when I use a pronoun, an object pronoun, him, it has to go in the middle. It has to go between the verb and the particle. So I cannot say I picked up him. It doesn't work. I can say I picked up Michael. I can say I picked him up, but I cannot say I picked up him. That is the number one grammar mistake with phrasal verbs. Now, some really common phrasal verbs include pick up, as I've just shown you, write down. I wrote it down, not I wrote down it, meaning to take notes. We've got put on. I put my jumper on. I put on it. I put it on. Turn down, meaning to refuse, another great separable phrasal verb. I turned down his offer. I turned him down, meaning to refuse, to say no. How about another phrasal verb, make up? Now, I've just talked about the makeup that ladies wear on their face, but did you know that make up is also a transitive, separable phrasal verb meaning to invent, often a story. So we could say she made up the story, but she made it up. So there's some common separable phrasal verbs. Now, it's the inseparable ones that we have that can maybe cause a bit more confusion. For example, get on. As we were discussing earlier, you can get on with somebody. I get on with my friend, hopefully. But you can't get him on. Doesn't make sense. Likewise, with get off. I got off the bus, not I got it off. I got the bus off. It doesn't make sense in that case. Run into, meaning to accidentally meet somebody, to meet somebody by chance. I ran into my neighbour at the supermarket, not I ran my neighbour into. Look after, another inseparable transitive phrasal verb. I looked after my brother. I looked after my cousin. I looked after my daughter. You cannot say I looked my daughter after or I looked him after. You can only say I looked after him. And finally, another very common inseparable phrasal verb, put up with, meaning to tolerate. So I put up with him, not I put him up with or I put up him with. Doesn't make sense. The with obviously implies that that's where the object needs to go at the end. It cannot be separated. So hopefully you've learned a few phrasal verbs there, along with the secret rules of using phrasal verbs. Now keep watching and don't forget to subscribe to learn lots more phrasal verbs, and also make a point of reviewing this lesson to make sure you understand those rules. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you with more phrasal verbs very soon.